So the recording has started, so we can proceed with the meeting. Hi, everyone. Today we have the MSI weekly meeting where we have quite a lot of updates, and taking into account that some of the guys who will share their update are in a hurry, and they want really to participate on the Magento meetup in Kharkiv, so they are pretty short on time. So let's proceed with their presentation first, and and I wouldn't bothering you with really long introduction. So let's follow the agenda, and the first one gonna be Alex.
That's me.
Alex he will tell you a little bit more about the async update and the backward incompatibility changes you should tend to avoid as much as possible.
And you are right. So yeah, what we basically found with Igor, like last 3 days, I guess we are talking about this, that in Magento 2.3.1 there was delivered one backward incompatible changes, at least for MSI project, which breaks basically the asynchronous implementation of the operations. I'll share my screen. We'll make it just short. I'll show you shortly what is it about. You see MSI project, am I right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yep, good. So basically that's a current implementation that MSI project has. If you will switch in the backend of the settings to the use like source assign and a source stock transfer in a synchronous way, then this code is executing then, or like run asynchronous operations. And here, when there's proceeding the publish mess method, here use the direct topic names. So that's one case. It's also for unassign and also for transfer pros. And basically those names, they are provided by Magento Core and by Magento asynchronous operation module. Nah, I'm wrong. For Magento Web API Async module that will generate those names based on a Web API XML declaration. So it's going through all endpoints, collect the data, and then create those topic names based on it. And all was good till now, I would say, because in 2.3.1 this topic name were changed. We had a lot of discussion, is it backward incompatible, yes or not, but we follow the rule, the dev dogs, which are rule in this case, it's backward incompatible changes. This means we have currently the problem that for those topic names, this operation will not work. And what I delivered, like today, I made a small changes. So basically, my idea was to keep the 2.3.0 compatibility for MSI. So because easiest way is just change here the topic names to the current ones, which will work for 2.3.1 perfectly, but it will destroy 2.3.0 compatibility because in 2.3.0 the topics are still has an old names. So what I did, I created 2 files which required by Magento queuing system. It's communication XML and Qt Publisher. And usually those 2 files they're generated by Web API Sync module on a fly. So basically, like inside of the configuration, they're generated based on a Web API XML, so based on the endpoints. And what I did, I basically created here those 3 topics which MSI is still using with an old format. And just forward them again to the bulk source. So then on this step, all implementation is exactly the same as the native Web API Sync is using. And so I created those 3 topics here, which forwarded to bulk. And basically then in addition, we need to publishers that system have to know that those topic names are going to the queuing system. That still have to be done manually in this case for each topic. Yep, and basically with these changes, as I tested today, it works fine, and it will keep the compatibility with 2.3.0 and also 2.3.1 then. I would still maybe propose to sync this solution because I'm still not too convinced that we're using here the hard-coded the topic names. But I get that's some topic for future discussions. And I'm done, Igor. If anybody have any questions, you're welcome.
Yeah, this is really good point that we probably, it's better to use some kind of abstraction, probably the same one which we have for routing, because we don't use the precise routing, we have the abstraction which could be configured, as well as like we don't use like with the event handling, we also have some kind of abstraction, and the listeners can just listen that event be on fired. So yeah, this is a good point to introduce the abstraction. That abstraction is supposed to be an API for the queue interrogation, but not the particular topic name.
Yep.
And that probably will mitigate the risk of the backward incompatible changes in future.
Yep.
But in any case, yeah, so as Alex said, we have a pull request which is supposed to fix the problem both for 2.3.0 and 2.3.1. So that will just hurry up us with releasing the next MSI release as soon as possible.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So the next one gonna be Alex, who is also going to attend the Kharkiv Magento meetup, and the Alexander, so this is exactly the same name but pronounced on Russian style and the Ukrainian style. So Alexander will tell us a little bit more about the in-store pickup. So the Alexander represents the ISM company, and guys, so we have a really literally saying the team who's dedicated for the in-store pickup project, and Alexander leads this team, and he will tell us more about the update on the track. So Alex, the stage is yours. Feel free to share your screen and tell us more.
Hi guys, Igor, thank you for introduction. So my message today will be short. We just put first brick in this wall of in-store pickup functionality from ISM e-company. These few days I have worked for the small issue. The idea of this issue is to create some mechanism how we can mark our orders which have placed with in-store pickup shipping method and align them with source where they will be delivered. So the idea of this functionality, I will share my screen in a second. Oh, okay, probably not today because I'm using a web browser version. So just listen me. So the idea of this functionality is to add an extension attribute to the order entity, which will keep information about the source which the order will be delivered, and then customer can came and ship it and take it and grab it. Yes, this is thank you. This is my pull request, and with this I would like to discuss a few points. First point is related about alignment with the domain model. As we previously have a discussion that if you're talking about a case of store pickup, so for now we have inventory source. It's like a place where goods are keeping. So and if we are going to talk about a place where customer can come and grab his order, my proposal is to name such entity as a pickup point. So it will keep like segregation between source, inventory source, which are using for warehousing and inventory, and like pickup point. It's mostly related to the in-store pickup functionality, where a customer can grab his order. And this is the idea. How do you think about this? For now, for current realization, it will be actually the same. So inventory source will be like a pickup point, but as we have a discussion about possible issues with translation, so localization, like naming of address of the pickup point, in future it probably will be segregated into separated entities. And in my pull request, I start to name this relation between order and source like pickup point, and use column named pickup point ID to join these two entities.
Is this different from the source ID that we already have? Because I thought the design that we are going towards was we would have an option for each source, whether it was a source that is possible for pickup.
For now, this is the source code. This is source code from the inventory source entity. But okay. As I said, in future it will be possible. We are required to segregate these two entities, because pickup point can have more attributes than just inventory source.
And right, you would have other things like store hours, phone number, etc., that we want to display on the front end. So we'll create a separate entity for that, or we would just have some optional source attributes that became required if the source was a pickup point.
So I think the idea is, for now, it looks like we can create two different entities, but these entities will have a lot in the same, like longitude and address and name of this entity. So, but yes, it can be, but it also can have different attributes like work hours. So for now, we decided to keep it the same. But for third-party developers, I think it will be an option, so they can use the Magento MSI inventory source entity, or they can create their own entity, like a pickup point. Probably, if in the future, in scope of MSI and store pickup, we also will use the other entity, and my idea is to keep this this dependency as soft as is possible.
Right. From a merchant perspective, I want to make sure that they have the same experience now, where they can configure a source, decide if that source is eligible for pickup. I think it would be a poor experience if we were to introduce in the future, say, a new section where they now have to manage sources, stocks, and pickup points. So there's 3 different things that they have to manage. That is probably too much complexity for them, given that they could manage what we're calling pickup points here within the sources grid.
Okay, so
yeah. So that was actually the idea, to bring this discussion to current meeting and discuss your opinion, Mark, whether we need to introduce this additional entity right now. Maybe we should not make too many complications at this point of time, and like whether we introduce such an entity like the pickup point, and in general, like whether the pickup point, even naming, is correct one, and whether it makes sense just to stay with the source grid and some kind of attributes, maybe additional attributes for the sources which are eligible for the store pickup.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to this is great for the demo. We don't need to do a grooming meeting now, but let's look at that.
Okay. Okay, so my next point is about join processor for the extension attributes. So I found that the order entity is the entity which don't use the join processor for extension attributes in a get list method in the order repository. So probably I think it will be a good idea to give opportunity to use this like a native Magento functionality, not only for customer address and other entities, but also for order. Because for now we can, as I created a new extension attribute, but I cannot use it in the collection. I need to do it for item by item. So how do you think, will it be a good idea to add this join processor to the order entity? Like mostly technical question.
Yeah, this is mostly a technical question because potentially you can achieve the same stuff having the source collection with a predefined filter for like in-store pickup attribute, which we already have added in one of the pull requests created. So that's actually the question, like, yeah, because I believe that we can proceed with the same flexibility, let's say, but just introducing another service which will just return you all the sources eligible for the in-store pickup, and that would be just dedicated service, but along with that we would not be introducing additional entity. So because like for introducing the new entity, we're supposed to have quite a strong reasoning why, like, what the business cases is supposed to cover. I really like the level of abstraction in most of the cases, but along with that, I believe that additional abstractions introduce an additional level of complexity, in this case, both for merchants and for developers, because merchants also have to somehow differentiate like the sources, store pickup points, and the way how the store pickup points can be matched to sources.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And the last my point, it's about in-store pickup shipping method, and it's about shopping cart page. So on the shopping cart page, we have like estimate shipping and tax section where a customer can enter his country, state, and zip code and receive the estimation of shipping costs and the tax. Also, customer available to select shipping method which he or she prefer to use to deliver his or her order. So the question is, are we going to also add in-store pickup shipping method to this section? So it will require to add in like drop down and search possibility to figure out which source will be used, not only on the checkout step, but also on the shipping cart step. And other question, we can just hide this shipping method from the cart step, and the shipping method will be only available on the checkout page.
This is the part we have not groomed yet. So the mock-up designs we did with our UX team are more past this page. So after you've already clicked proceed to checkout, we've done some designs of how the customer would select a regular shipping method or in-store pickup. And if they pick in-store pickup, how do they select the correct store? We haven't groomed what we would do with this estimator.
Yep, looks like Looks like we need to schedule additional discussion to discuss the possibilities how we can. That's a really good point, Alexander.
And this page is also highly coupled to checkout. So once you select something here, it's transferred to checkout your choices. So it's really like important to keep it up to date as well.
Okay, so let's schedule a meeting to discuss it further. Okay, it's all for now from our side. I think we will have much bigger progress in the next week. And it is it. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Sasha, for your update. That really matters. And the next week, I will schedule a meeting, and you'll get an invitation, and where we can discuss the topics you brought up for today.
Okay.
So yeah. So now let's proceed to further updates, and Evgen will tell a little bit more about the in-store pickup. Also, so Eugenia, feel free to share your updates.
Just starting a screen share. So there are not too much updates at this point. Most of them are really short and quick. So we decided to separate store pickup into a separate branch on the repository, which is based on 2.3 develop. So basically, all store pickup related PRs are supposed to go to the store pickup branch. Actually, we have already merged some of the pull requests at this point. We already have 3 modules, which are the basic module structure. I think one of these pull requests, yeah, this one, I suppose, has implemented that. So these files it's mostly just empty modules, but serve as a base for the future development. We have also accepted a few pull requests on top of that. One of them is a really good one. It provides an API to select the store pickup point based on the customer's preference of distance from the specific postcode. So this current implementation utilizes something called Great Circle Distance algorithm, and it's calculated using the sophisticated database query. But other implementations may also be supplied by developers to implement it in a different way. So this is pretty much the first API for the store pickup modules. The pull request Alexander was talking about before is also targeting store pickup. So since now everything related will go there. We'll be syncing up the store pickup branch and the 2.3 develop branches. I'm not sure yet automatically or manually, but on a regular basis. So this is, I guess, pretty much all of the updates regarding the infrastructure. We'll be working on the backlog as well, adding new tickets on this. Yeah.
There is a question from Tadeo in a chat regarding modules.
I don't really understand the question because we already have the separate module for the store pickup. So
Tadeo, could you please clarify a little bit your question? Whether you mean why did we create 3 modules instead of 1, or why we are not reusing some existing module? So yeah, the question actually about the modularity. So Jenny, you can tell a little bit more why we using three modules.
For some reason, I can't click on the chat. Just a second.
So actually, yeah, today introduce the clarification. So why not to use the same module to pick up? So why to use three modules
Same
instead of
module
one?
as what? As which module? We have currently three modules in store pickup admin UI and API. All of them are dedicated to separate purposes. Store pickup API only provides APIs which may be used or applied with different implementation. In store pickup module contains all the stock business logic which we provide with the MSI installation, and admin UI speaks for itself, just module related for admin UI. Again, it's something what you can swap out or disable completely if you are using Magento in different scenarios, like in headless mode or whatever. About Mark, which Mark are you talking about? Do you mean, Tadeo, you suggest to move the order extension attributes, which is marked for the store pickup, into a separate module?
Okay, just to prevent the discussion, so I propose to keep the discussion in chat, and based on what Evgen just told, we have another question to Mark, because we already stuck with that during the implementation of the distance-based algorithm. And what do you think? Should we introduce any layer of abstraction on the distances we use? Because currently we can there are two systems, metric system and imperial system, and currently most of the values we use belongs to the metric system. And Google Maps API considers the metric system as a default option. But currently, for us, it's not possible to specify. So we don't have kind of distance object where you can specify that this object should have the imperial presentation or metric one. So if, for example, somebody will decide to make the customization for United States and use miles instead of kilometers, it would be a little bit more problematic than having a dedicated object and API to customize. But along with that, whether we need to introduce this also additional complexity, because we did not have that in Magento, like differentiation between the metric system and the imperial system. So should we do it here in the scope of the in-store pickup and the distance-based algorithm?
Yeah, we should probably add that to this upcoming grooming meeting. I mean, my first thought would be, it doesn't matter if we don't display anything to the customer. So then it's just, which number is smaller than another. But if we intend on the UX and the front end to show the list of stores, and based on the address they've entered or the point they've entered, it will sort them by distance and list, this is 10 kilometers away, this is 40 kilometers away. Then we definitely need to take that into consideration because it has to be adjusted regionally.
Yeah, makes sense.
Are you saying that the result from the Google API is always in metric system?
No, but I can share my screen. I can share my screen. Do you see my screen now?
Yeah.
So what they actually have, they have the dedicated parameter units, which is supposed to be configured whether either in metric or imperial. the metric is the default value, but for all the API requests, it's possible to specify the metric parameter, units parameter, so that you will get the result whether in meters and kilometers or in miles and feet. So
Okay,
that because we, like what I'm saying about, because we already have this kind of APIs from the I'll just open that in code, just maybe it will make a little bit more clear, because this we can introduce some kind of the presentation layer just on the front end, but along with that we store by distance in delivery probably get. But already now, let's say we have these services which accept radius, like get nearby sources by postcode, and which accept radius, and we currently consider this radius as a number, like the number of kilometers away from the coordinates of the zip code. But like whether we need to introduce here kind of abstraction layer and provide an ability to consider that the radius actually represents the distance in miles.
We probably do. Only the reason I say that is because if we're going to prompt the customer on the front end to have that as something they can pick, like if they are able to pick, 10, 25, 50, 100 miles, then we need to calculate it in the same way. I would much rather send this parameter and accept Google's results than trying to do calculations on our own.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be making the calculation in our own. We will just keep that keep the understanding that current value is in represent the distance in miles and current value represent distance in kilometers, but all the calculations would be done by, let's say, third-party service like Google, or so we would not be like making the conversion.
Correct. So in ideally, we'll have to have a setting for this, and the best way to do that would be if that can just pull off one of the other regional settings we already have in store configuration by default, so the merchant could override it, but it would pick up what they already had set for other elements of Magento.
Okay. So looks like we are clear on that point. In any case, I believe on the upcoming MSI grooming meeting devoted to the store pickup, we'll bring more like ideas and maybe proposals regarding how that could be done and how that could be represented on UI. But yeah, this is the issue we started to think about during this week. So let's proceed further in the scope of our agenda. So the next topic is devoted to the integration test. Let me share my screen again. I don't see that Josh currently on the meeting. So on behalf of Josh Carter, I will make a presentation of the pull request which he did and which we merged a few days ago. Josh. So what actually Josh did, we had pretty interesting conversation in the MSI Slack channel where Vinay Kopp mentioned that we have an issue where he created the simple product and assigned the quantity 0, and the source status of that product was in stock, and the minimal quantity threshold was -3, and the backorder was enabled for that product, and the quantity use decimal was also enabled, but the saleable quantity was 0 for some reasons, which is not correct because it's supposed to be 3. Because how we literally calculate the saleable quantity, we use total summed up quantity among all the sources available minus mean quantity threshold. In our case, that minus gonna be plus because minus minus 3 gives us plus 3, and he could not replicate that issue if the quantity was just a fraction of like 1. So that the calculation was precise. So my first thought that we somewhere have the incorrect calculation for the decimal quantity, but taking into account that I could not reproduce this issue manually, like here, for example, what I propose to Josh Carter to write an integration test and cover that functionality. So what is literally Josh did. So he introduced this fixture with exactly the same case as Vinay mentioned, and he updated all our integration tests, and now like all these tests passed. So looks like we don't have a problem in this particular business scenario, and also we provided this integration test to Vinay and asked him to run that integration test on his local environment, just to figure out whether there is some environment issues or like maybe some configuration problems from the Vinay side. But at least currently we see that we automated this scenario, and we are not like we can say it. We can show proof that we don't have a problem with this particular calculation, which is pretty cool. So now probably Zhenya again will tell you a little bit more about recent pull request, which is supposed to improve the performance of product save operation. So Zhenya, feel free to share a little bit more.
This is actually one interesting pull request. It's really small and compact, but fixes a major problem which I don't think we even tracked in our issue tracker. And the main idea is that cache cleans always relied upon the dirty object state and implemented like done redundant work each time the product was saved, and the execution time was increasing linearly. So this simple fix improved performance by, I think, around 80%. We had some rough numbers in here. It's for 250 products, the improvement is really significant. So really great pull request, and it was pleasant to merge it.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think we have too much else to say.
Yeah, actually, Zhenya correctly mentioned that we didn't have a precise issue for this pull request to be matched with, because we always considered that because we have the degradation on the product save operation, which was discovered on by our performance acceptance builds. But we always considered that this degradation, the root cause of the degradation comes from the additional synchronization we are currently doing, and this is exactly the topic which Ricardo going to share next along our agenda. But and we consider that this is the main root cause, because we have to synchronize inventory data both for legacy inventory into the new inventory databases. But looks like we did not notice that we have a gap with the cache cleaning, and this cache gap, and actually fixing that gap introduced pretty good performance boost for the product save operation. So yeah, this is really great pull request, and it's really nice to see that guys from community fill the gaps which we don't notice for some reasons. And and that was all the preface for the presentation, which Ricardo gonna do right now regarding the finalizing of his pull request on the inventory save operation and making all that sync part to work asynchronously. Yeah, so Ricardo, you can tell us more.
Yes, I was just trying to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So basically, this is I finalized the work I started last week. So basically, is as you told before, one of the most important bottleneck while saving the source inventory was the legacy inventory synchronization. And so this pull request basically is running the synchronization in a synchronous way. So basically, you can choose between running synchronously or asynchronously, backend. And we finally managed to make it work because we had a very funny bug about running one asynchronous operation in the middle of a transaction. And we fixed it, and it is definitely working now. And we are just waiting to understand if, because we have a problem with testing, but we are not sure it is directly depending on this PR or something different, because it seems more something from the platform trying to allocate memory. But if we need to have this green, basically, I think we can proceed, because as far as I know, Slava already tested it and it seems to be correctly working. And that's it.
Cool. Thank you, Ricardo. And especially based on the update of Alex Lizun, even if Ricardo is using the old topic names, his pull request wouldn't be affected, because in the pull request created by Alex, he introduced the configuration and mapping of the old topic names to the new handlers. So now we can use like both, like all the new topic names, and that's supposed to work.
Well, actually, I think this is working anyway, because we are not using directly the web API asynchronous way, but we are directly publishing an operation, because this is supposed to be an internal mechanism. So there is not any interface exposed. So this should work anyway, even without the fix from Lizun.
Today I'll try to merge both of your pull requests all together, and also add the pull request with this cache invalidation, and to run our performance acceptance test to see the difference comparing with what we had on a previous MSI branch, and especially we are interested in the product save operation. So we expect to have a pretty good boost here, because like two different pull requests, each of them supposed to introduce a supposed to eliminate performance degradation, gonna be merged, and it's pretty like, I'm really thrilled to see what's gonna our test will show us. So yeah, Josh currently not on this meeting, but I will also share update on his behalf that he started to work on the issue devoted to the inventory source import, because we stuck with an issue that for some reasons, like on a big profiles, that led to PHP crash because the out of memory problem. So that we it's evidently that we have some memory leakage there, and we started to investigate that issue, because initially we thought that the problem could be in maybe in handling like bundle products, or which is currently not supported on default source, but looks like this is not the case, and the bundled product would be handled correctly. Even for default source, so we this is probably update for Lori, so we no need to add any additional stuff to our documentation, no need to add additional labels on the admin UI, so that we are pretty good from that point of view. But along with that, we Josh still investigated the issue with importing big profile, and why actually the source import going pretty slow. So we tested that on 100,000 source items to be imported, and that took more than 1 hour. So because taking into account that we're using the bulk inserts, it should be weaker. So we expect that some update index on save operation probably reason of this performance degradation we currently have on the source import. I hope that we will have this issue fixed and demonstrated on the next meeting. Also, small update to Priya. So we have a contributor who just left because he was hurry up to the Magento meetup. So Stepan already created the first pull request regarding the stock export. He introduced there the set of interfaces, and he's going to continue that work during tomorrow's contribution day, so that I believe we will have the implementation of the stock export, including the reservation, so the taking reservation into account, so that you can rely on that pull request further, and you can rely on that piece of functionality in the scope of the integration with the sales channel, where Magento integrated and export the inventory data to Amazon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I believe that we will have more updates during next week when Stepan will manage to finalize this pull request. I don't see. Yeah, I see Lukasz. Lukasz on the meeting. So Lukasz created a pull request literally 1 hour before the demo. So Lukasz, would you like to share your update on what you did for MSI?
Okay, it's not much. However, when doing my usual job, I found out that there is one method I want to extend, and then I tried to discuss about it. And Igor noticed that it's incorrectly it incorrectly shows that it's available to modification, because there was lack of deprecation information in these interfaces. So I modified this to SPIs to inform programmers that it's no longer supported, that it's deprecated. So you can see my screen probably with this information to SPIs in catalog inventory. So that's all for today.
Yeah, in any case, it definitely matters, because this, since now this pull request would be, this interface would be highlighted as deprecated in the IDE, because looks like when we were deprecating all the interfaces, we deprecated all the interfaces which belong to the API namespace, but surprisingly for the catalog inventory module, we have along with API, we have an SPI namespace, and in that namespace we have two interfaces. And before that, before the pull request created by Lukasz, both of these pull requests have not been marked as deprecated. So we literally did it. Not we, but Lukasz literally did it. And boom, boom, boom. So let's make me update on behalf of Max Proinka, who is currently not on the meeting. He actually committed that he will be on a meeting, but he did not. So I will punish him. but now I will make an update on his behalf. So what Max did, so his pull request is not yet merged, but the main idea, so we were discussing several times how we can proceed with, so along with MSI, we introduced some performance degradation on the product grid. This degradation is not related with configurable products, as many people currently joke in the MSI Slack channel. So this is the main root cause of the degradation is the saleable quantity column, because from the MSI standpoint, we never consider that we supposed to work and supposed to get quantities from different stocks in one business scenario. Because on front end, we always work in the scope of one stock only. But just for this scenario, to show the different quantities for admin on different stocks, we are making too many additional calls to retrieve all the quantity from different tables, because literally for different stock we have different tables on the DB level, so that if product would be assigned to several stocks, we will proceed with having the same number of service requests here, and each of the service requests will end up having the SQL query to particular stock table, so that adding this table introduced quite a drastic performance degradation, especially for those merchants who have quite a lot of stocks. There is no an easy way to mitigate this performance degradation, because in any case we have the independent APIs, in any case we have independent tables in our database, and all these tables supposed to be queried to retrieve the data. So what we started to work on with Max Proinka in the scope of his pull request. Where is it? Pull request. In the scope of this pull request. So we tried to build, you can see it here. So we decided to consider that this data is kind of reporting data, and it's okay for to build this product grid. It's okay to retrieve the data not via API interface, but with a direct SQL queries. So that we are trying to mitigate the performance degradation via building the plain SQL queries. They're a little bit ugly, as you can see in Max code, but along with that, we try to compare the gain and what we can achieve with that. And if the performance would be sufficient, probably it's okay for us to have the not API related code, but especially taking into account that this is kind of a reporting data. And we don't have any other business case where we supposed to retrieve quantity from different stocks in the scope of one business scenario. Just to fix the performance on a product grid here. This is pretty much all regarding the updates from the external contributors. And now Tom will tell you more regarding our QA status and the quality status and what was done during this week.
Great, thank you, Igor. I'll just share my screen here. Okay, hopefully we have PowerPoint there.
Yes, we do.
Great, thank you. Okay, so quality status for the previous week. So what we'll see here is that we're currently in the middle of a regression run for 1.10, full manual and automated run. So in terms of our manual testing, we'll see these numbers haven't changed, as we see 602, 602 previous week and current week. total manual and automated have stayed the same because we're in the middle of that manual test run, and that's where the focus is. The change in numbers is here, so this is our current execution status. As of today, we can see our total number, 439. That puts us about 75% of the way through. That is about 100 up on last week, so we are getting through this at a good pace. 11 failures in total over mostly catalogs, some in sales. They're being dealt with, but that's a relatively low number. That's the main bulk of where we've been working in terms of automation. Execution statuses are the same again. We're still running with those 12 skips. That's a backlog that's due to be dealt with. We have some community contributors from Mage Test Fest Contribution Day last Friday working on some tests to contribute. Those are not finished yet. It's a bit of a learning exercise for new MFTF contributors, so those are a little slow, but we hope to get them in soon. Very clean, best practices with merges and extends, so we'll hopefully see those by next week. Our test creation trend, as I've said, is flat. That's because we're right in the middle of an execution run. We expect once we finish that up to then bring these numbers up again. And we hope, I think, to be finished by our manual execution by next week, but we'll update on that in our next call. And what we're adding to our quality reports for these weeks is that's coverage and execution we've been looking at, but we also want to look at our defects, our rate of creation and closure. At the moment, we're just going to highlight the last week. We'll make this a little more sophisticated as we go and do tracking trending as well. But within the last week, we've had 6 issues created, of which 2 were highlighted as bugs. The main bug there being 2079, sources with a purely numeric source code couldn't be used in shipment at all. That was opened and then subsequently closed by the same person who raised it. That's Ahmed Al-Arabi. So we got that closed in the same week. There was another bug raised, highlighted here at the bottom, 2073. This is still open in MSI bug tracking, but has been moved to a core issue. It's not an MSI issue. Core issue around 2.2 to 2.3 upgrades, but it's still open in R, so it's tracked here until that whole process is closed out. But yeah, we found one bug, we closed it, that's great, and we'll have more tracking on these in terms of bugs found from the execution of the manual regression, how we're closing those as we go. But that's our quick update. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them here on Slack. Otherwise, that's everything from me. Oh, and just a note, if you are interested in quality, these will all be in our community newsletter as well.
Good. Thank you for update, Tom. Quality is always important for us. And by the way, based on this, like lesson learned on message queue topic renaming, and that we didn't have precise test case covering that because our existing regression did not cover that we had a bug on the asynchronous inventory transfer. I asked Slava to cover this particular case with additional test case in our heap test. So I believe if the next time the topic name would be changed and that will screw up the MSI, so we can find that issue much earlier at the time of the regression.
Great, fantastic.
So this is pretty much all. I don't know, are there any other updates or open questions? If no, probably we can wrap up for today. And thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for your presentation. Most of the people are already departed to the contribution days and the meetups. We have 2 of them right now starting in Ukraine. And yeah, thank you guys for your time. Appreciate your help, and see you in a week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
Bye-bye.